Hi, I'm Kassy, and this is the Spark Connect, a podcast about what brings us to life: connection, creativity, courage, and the moments that spark real change. I'll be your host, bringing my experience as a speaker, consultant, and lifelong believer in showing up as your full self. In this series, Arts and Facilitation, you'll hear from inspiring voices, facilitators, trainers, speakers, and everyday humans who are also artists, lighting up the world in their own unique, creative ways. This is your space to reflect, reset, and reignite, because the spark is already in you. Let's light it up. You're about to meet Mike Bondi, a magician and corporate trainer who proves that the real magic in learning isn't sleight of hand, it's connection. Mike shares his journey from a shy kid to a confident performer, showing how magic and training both rely on storytelling, empathy, and practice. He reveals how a well-timed trick can turn complex topics into aha and make engagement truly unforgettable. He even talks ROI because, wonder can be measured. And here's the best part. He gives us a magic demo at the end, so you do not want to miss it. As Mike says, magic can be a bridge to connect with learners. After this conversation, you'll see how right he is. Hi, I am so excited to be here today with Mike Bondi, Mike the Magician, I'm going to say for today. And I just can't wait to get into this. I've been talking about it. And I am so happy that you're here today with me, Mike. And I just can't wait to hear all the things that brought you into this world of training and facilitation. So before we go any further, and without further ado, Mike, hello, introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and how the magic plays out in the work that you do. Give us a little bit of bio about you, though.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Kassy. I am a software trainer in learning and development for a software company in the mortgage industry. And so I actually began as a kid who was too shy to get up in front of the class. And then I got the hobby of magic. And all of a sudden, I'm able to get in front, talk to teachers and fellow students confidently. And then you couldn't put me back in the box after that.
So wait, when did you pick up the hobby of magic then?
Honestly, 6 or 7 years old, there was a magician in Macy's in New York City where I lived, 5th floor toy department. The parents would leave their kids there and go shopping, come back, and their kids would be safe and still be there, except mom and dad had to buy me something from the old man, And so that's when it started.
I love that so much. Is that the Macy's that's at, is it like 36th?
Yeah, 34th Street Macy's. And a little trivia for you, Kassy, David Copperfield, a little older than me, he had already been going there and buying tricks from the same gentleman.
Oh my gosh. You talk about 6 degrees of separation right there.
Right.
Look at that.
Absolutely.
Do you remember that magician's name by chance, or were you too little?
Danny, he was Dutch immigrant. His name was Danny Tukas. And he had the style of the old carnival barkers. Step right up and come see the show. So he toured around. He's from Connecticut after immigrating. He toured the Northeast coast. And so sometimes he was not at Macy's. Some people would cover for him. But literally, I'd see him all the time. He watched me grow up. And he told my mother, there's a good magic school for your son. We couldn't make that happen. But when I was 25, I found a course in California. So I actually have a trade school degree in sleight of hand with Chavez Studio in California.
That is so interesting. So you have a certificate, what did you call it? A
Certificate,
sleight of
yeah.
hand?
I just thought it was a certificate, but literally it was registered with the state of California as a vocation. So my certificate says vocational certificate in the state of California.
In the art of sleight
In the
of
art
hand?
of, they're using the term prestidigitation,
Wait, what's the term?
Prestidigitation, the Latin for your ability to move your hands, do magic with your hands, the skill of sleight of hand. That'd be a better translation.
Okay, we could talk about this all day. This is so interesting. And it leads you to becoming a trainer in the mortgage industry. Wait, did you go straight into mortgage?
No,
No, you ended
yeah.
up there. That's where you are today. But what happened between getting your vocational certification in sleight of hand to now you're a trainer? I love this.
Yeah, so, my parents were very supportive, but honestly, they wanted me to get the 4-year degree, and I got half of it, and then I deviated, as many of us might do. And so, I literally was doing shows, and there was something called the Yellow Pages where you could put an ad there, and then people would call you, before websites. So I was doing the corporate magic performances and kids' birthday parties. And through that period of time, I found a job when I got my finance degree finally in the mortgage industry. Let me back up. I started working at Disney in the restaurant resorts industry. But wherever I am, every once in a while, they'll tap me on the shoulder and say, "We need you to train the next new person." So whether it was at Disney, whether it was in an accounting office, I became the de facto trainer. So when I got to mortgage, I learned the software, and once again, sit with Bondi. He's going to train you. So informal way to get into L&D. Right.
So
Because
many of us have that story. I don't know enough people to count on one hand that said when they were at university or wherever they got their education, I can't wait to be a trainer when I grow up. Usually, you know it best. Will you please show them? You said it best. For me, it was you engaged me enough to want to pay attention. Can you do that all the time for all of us? And so that's so interesting that that's how it was for you as well. When you were working and you're a magician, you have this certification in sleight of hand, but then you jumped into when you got into finance. So how did you end up finding your way to finance from sleight of hand? And are those two connected somehow?
yeah, well, again, so I was struggling in math in middle school. Then we moved to another place outside of New York, and I found a really good math teacher. And then later on in college, I got a math tutor to help me with advanced math, algebra, calculus. And then people were coming to me after I learned it and saying, "Hey, I noticed you got a handle on this and you seem to explain it well," which is what you just said. And so I became a math tutor, and that's what I call when I got the training bug. And they were paying me to go to the math center and answer questions, help people with their homework in the university. I'm like, that's not a bad gig. But then, you could fast forward that to being able to get a finance degree, because that's pretty interesting as well. And you need a lot of math in that for analysis if you're working in a company to make decisions. So that played into me, ending up in that world. And at one point they said, "Now that you understand how to work the software, you're our new system administrator for creating logins and training the new people who come in." So again, de facto trainer.
De facto trainer. And we love it. So of course we're like, yes, I can't wait. I always found it more interesting to tell people about how things were done more than the thing that they were doing was interesting. It was the art of of sharing how, and the art of getting to know people and helping them to figure it out and be successful.
Yeah.
The topic was less interesting to me. It was the art of bringing that topic to life for them. I want to talk about some things too, but before we go further, I do want to ask you this important question. Do you think you were a trainer that discovered art or an artist who stepped into training? I think we've been talking about this a little bit, but to formalize
Right.
that question.
Yeah. I would say I'm an artist who transferred into training because I was a shy kid. I would not get in front of the class to read my paper no matter what was going on. And yet my mother on the PTA, she was the first one up there with the microphone. I'm watching it going, how does she do it? But they encouraged me. And so that really helped. And magic to me is the success piece for that.
Say more about that. Magic to you is the success piece.
Because the parallel between training and performance is confidence, preparation, engagement. So that, like you mentioned, if it's not interesting to you, you're going to just shut down as a learner. And it's the same for magic. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story here where I was modeling a lot of performers I've seen on TV or in person, and they usually put a gag before they do the trick. And the gag was pick a card, but you purposely, move the card when they're trying to pick the card. You purposely move it with your thumb so it does like a little animation, and the audience laughs, but the person could feel like a fool. And so one of the times where I had done it successfully and they were good sports, one person got so embarrassed and mad. For the rest of the show, she would not pay attention or participate in anything because I had lost her faith in me. And so I
Yeah.
learned a lesson from that. Right.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me of a time when I was a brand new virtual trainer. I was teaching people how to use WebEx, it was. And we were talking about audio and the importance of audio, and somebody burped on the audio right at that moment. And I thought they did it on purpose. And I'm a very fun-loving person anyway. And so I started I didn't laugh at first because I knew enough as the trainer to be like, was that for real? Long story short, it was an accident. And the class ended up laughing and laughing and laughing because at first no one said anything, but then we went on for a couple of moments and then everyone started laughing because someone finally goes, like that burp. And, they couldn't hold themselves back. And it's a really funny story, but they kept talking about it. So I kind of joined in and I'm like, well, something's happened and it's funny, but I ended up getting a private chat in that moment from the person who did it. And that private chat said, it began with the words, there are no words to describe the level of embarrassment. And it came like slowly like that.
Yes.
And what ended up happening is that person left the class.
Yeah.
And I learned the lesson of I needed to be a little bit more protective. And like at first I was, but then when the majority of the class started laughing, I did join in and I shouldn't have. That was a lesson that I learned. And I think what you're talking about there is that we just have to be so cued into people's feelings,
Right. And that really makes the difference between a person who has not only studied, but learned the art of their profession, and either through trial and error, like you and I both, learned what not to do and how to, be a better, more empathetic person that is the guide on the side.
Yeah. It's like if I had that as a redo, I just would have taken credit for the burp. I have a sound bite that I put in here just at that time. I would have tried to help him save face, right?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. And they would have appreciated for you. Maybe that message could have come later on with an opposite response.
I did end up making it okay for the person, by the way. We did fix it as much as we could. But so tell me a little bit more. I'm super interested in California and your time earning that certification, because I'm interested in like what was on the agenda? What did they teach you? How long did you go to that? And I'm sure that some of that, there's the art of the performance, because you've got to learn the magic trick, but then you've got to learn to perform the tricks, right?
Absolutely.
Two different things.
Yeah, and there's even more layers than that, like there are in L&D. So it started out with a baseline, and we talk about this, your assessment at the beginning of creating learning, right? Where am I in magic in this moment? And when I made the phone call initially, this person, he took over the course from the creators. Those were vaudeville magicians, and the actual magician was Marion. So it's Marion Chavez. So later on, anyone can Google this. Marion Chavez, she was the sleight of hand woman. And so some of the things we learned were back when people smoked, having a lit cigarette and then going like this, and you've got 2 cigarettes and 3 and 4, and then you make them disappear. And this is all like with your hands like this, your sleeves rolled up. I mean, this is really like amazing sleight of hand. And in that era,
the cigarettes, I'm assuming they're lit.
Yeah, they're lit.
So you're worried the tension and the burning that could happen.
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Absolutely. It takes a lot of practice and dropping them and all that, And so her and her husband, were this act, but she was like the main one. And so she wrote all the materials, and basically you could take that as a correspondence course, or you could take it in person. So there were 2 options. You can go to Michigan, or you can go to California, Pasadena. So Michigan, I was going to go in January, cold. I'm in Florida. I was like, I'll go to the So, I could have gone with the older person who took over the course from Marion Chavez and her husband. I went with somebody else because of the nice weather. And either way, I would have been fine. And so to make that story a little shorter, we learned the balls that you would see on a pool table, but they were a little bit smaller so they could fit between your hands. And you would make those appear, change color, disappear, and you're always showing your hands empty. I mean, there's all sorts of discipline involved to be able to do that. It's not camera tricks because you could be
No,
doing
I
this on a
know.
cruise ship. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's so you have to learn all the tricks, but then what about and I think about magicians that I've seen, there's this whole thing about discovering your personality or AKA discovering your personal brand,
Yes.
I would say, and how you're going to be in the world as a magician, as a trainer, as a company, as a product, right?
Yeah.
How did they so first I imagine that you're learning the tricks, but then was there any part of in the certification that you took, was there anything around the performance and the discovery of who you become? Was that included
Yes.
as well in the programming?
So as he was very candid, so my actual instructor, after watching me for a while, practice with playing cards and the props that we were talking about, he was already giving me an idea of a performer that I resembled, who was the classic performer who puts on the tuxedo and maybe doesn't speak at all, just performs to music. So he felt that I had that style of elegance at that time. And I was in my mid-20s. And so, that was what I pursued. I was wearing the full tuxedos for shows and following in that path where my colleague, who was from Canada, she was in her teens. And so she did the course and she was already doing magic with bubbles, like when you blow a bubble and then when it's floating, you go like this and now it's a solid, changing it to a solid and then making it disappear. She already had that act as a teen. She still does that act today. And so, yeah, so you're either guided to one or you have a preference. Sometimes people are naturally funny and they could still do this course and be hilarious. So there's a magic show on Maui. Annabelle and Alexander, if I'm not mistaken, is the name of the place. I went to see the show and he has it as a close-up show and he's hilarious, but he's skilled and he studied the same course in his show. And that place gets packed like a dinner. It's like a cocktail show, on Maui. And so that gives you an idea of what different performers take from that.
You're reminding me, I'm trying to remember the guy's name. The guy who doesn't speak at all and he does all of it nonverbal. He's got an act running in Las Vegas right now.
Is he solo or is he with Penn Jillette? It's not Penn and Teller, right?
I saw that show. That to this day is my favorite Las Vegas show. The Penn and Teller one.
Oh, okay, yes.
So
I've seen it too. Yeah.
Fun. He was on Britain's Got Talent, or he was on America's Got Talent or something at some point, but now he's got a show. But I ended up getting called up on stage and he had me acting like I was a lion and getting up. I can't even believe all the things that ended up happening.
That's cool. I'm going to have to, maybe you private message me later and tell me who it was, because I don't know off the top of my head who that could be.
I will look up his name and we'll put it in the show notes because he was excellent and a lot of fun. It's so interesting. So when you move forward in your career, you're getting your degree and you're working in finance and you now work in mortgage. What do you do exactly as a trainer in the mortgage industry?
So, when you sit down, if you're old school and you go sit down in your bank branch and go, okay, I'm here, I brought all my income and assets information. We want to get approved for a mortgage, right? Which, as you know, most of the time is probably being done online, right? And you may not even meet the person, maybe talk to them on the phone. You are watching them type into a software. Or if you do it online, you're watching yourself type into the software, but when you press send, it comes still into a software. So I was fortunate enough to work for several different mortgage companies. So each time I learned that software. And then when the job was posted, I just happened to be looking, it said, you don't have to know our software to be hired, which is unheard of. You just need to know industry and you need to have been a trainer and you need to understand how to train this type of end user. So I already check all those boxes. And so a battery of interviews, you have to do a presentation, as you probably imagine, training something. And I got there and I stayed there through 12 years.
They know anything about your magic background?
Well, I think it might have been on LinkedIn that they see. If you look at LinkedIn, you'll see it there. But I think that clip that I sent you was from a team meeting, the training team.
That is so cool. So
That's
did
when
they, Did you begin your role? Because you bring magic into your actual classes, don't you? Like
I do.
for you, it's not something that you've had to put aside and say, I do that on the weekends, which is a little bit of what my experience has been, where they don't really want to hear about the actory things. You know, you want to make a great trainer, let's get all into vocal warm-ups. And I've got some things we've got to do as an ensemble. And they're like, no, 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 none of that. That's been more my career experience. And so I've had to kind of get around it in different ways. But you, however, you actually sent me a clip of you doing magic in an actual training. Tell us more about that and what kind of trick you bring to your classes. Yeah.
Would your audience like to see? I'll perform it right now so they can see. All right,
100%. Oh, we are so lucky. In fact, I was going to ask before we were done today if you could teach us something, but here we go. Let's do it. Show us anything.
So this is a way. This has several fold. This is some 3 ropes here just tied together. You can see they're kind of identical. This is a way to either engage a crowd of people who are not interested in the training. So at some point, I might have this ready to go. In the context of salespeople, right? And when I was in mortgage, I was in sales for some part of that time, trying to get business. They really want to know, just tell me what's in it for me. I don't need to know everything about the software when I'm putting the app in. I just want to get it closed, right?
They need to just know enough to be dangerous to sell it, right?
Right. So I'm going to step back. And so you've already seen the ropes, and I want to distinguish them from each other. So this would be our product as a mortgage lender, right? This is the services that we provide. But everybody looks at us in the context of the other 2 competitors. And what do you think happens? We look just like the competitor. So if you take a look at the sizes of the rope, that's true. So what is the salesperson's job? So today I'm here to train you on how to take an application so that you learn all the efficiencies, tips and tricks, answering questions quickly, providing confidence in your end user to use your services. Now, don't blink because you'll miss it here. These ropes look identical because your product looks identical, but as you begin differentiating the product, then all of a sudden, if they go to the competitor, they get stuck with the short end of the stick.
What just
Go
happened?
to the other competitor, they get just a little bit more service, but not more service than you're providing with your product.
Wait a second. You just had 3 ropes that were all the same, and then one became very short, and the third one became very, very long.
Yes.
What? And I watched it, and I did. What just happened? That was amazing. And what a great story to accompany that. Like that goes together so much.
Thank you. Yeah, and you know, and these are handed out at the beginning and handed out at the end, you know, just to give you that context that this is through computer, and I could do this in a virtual training session, but when I'm in person and live, you know, I make it a point to engage the people with, you know, touch the product and you know, whatever it is, and let's have some fun. And in the case of the salespeople, I have their attention now. I already was empathetic to their cause. Just get me in and get me out of here because I need to go answer 2 voicemails because I got some business coming. And then we get them excited, and there's a lot of mutual respect. And magic has a lot to do with building that bridge, in my opinion.
That's amazing. You know, I'm sitting here, I'm wanting to know how that happened, what just happened, what more does he have? I can't wait. What other tricks are going to be in there that are going to make this content make sense? I'm so engaged and interested in learning about our product right now. It's so cool. Does it ever come up where people are like, well, wait, how did you do that? Like, do they get ever distracted and want to know the trick more than the content?
Well, you know, it depends. So certain times, if you just let them touch it before they ask you, they don't do that. They're not. They just jump up to, oh well, maybe it was, you know, an illusion and I missed something. I blinked, and then we're good. You know.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you'll have what I call the engineer type, where they want to figure out everything because that's how their brain works, and they're not even at the point where they're smiling or laughing and in getting the joy of it yet. They're in that puzzle solving mode. And so sometimes, you know, I'll teach them a very elementary trick unrelated to that one, so they have something to go away with because that's what they're craving. So that is part of it as well. It could be with something as simple as a rubber band illusion with your finger that you're, you know, teaching them to do, and they're like, "Oh, cool! I could learn that and have fun with my friends." So
yeah, because they get
way.
kind of distracted by the process, but that's okay too, because that's their brain processing what's going on. Yeah. If you're teaching a class, is it usually all day or is it usually just a couple of hours?
So the typical class is 4 hours, either remote or in the morning and then in the afternoon, right? So there could be a 4 hour piece. And if their topic is small for what they need to know in the software, they're done. But let's say a loan processor or mortgage loan underwriter, they're going to need 6 to 8 hours. So 4 hours in the morning with breaks, lunch, and 4 hours in the afternoon. So magic could be just a piece of that piece to break it. And if it's not magic, it could just be a fun poll. I used to use a lot of Kahoot. Kahoot has the competitive polls, and then Poll Everywhere, there is a competitive poll feature that I leverage as well. Somebody was asking me about it, and I said, one of them is just maybe trivia, general trivia for fun, unrelated to training, like a 10-minute break. Let's just forget about what we're doing and just have some fun. Or their knowledge checks, which is built by the curriculum developers and me into the materials. So our knowledge check will be a competitive poll because it's better than just clicking because you're trying to win the points, as you know. That's the whole.
Yeah. And it's just a different way to use your brain and kind of let things process and go inside for a moment. It's good. But so you would say then you do like one trick. It's not like you're doing tricks all day long as much as we may want them because we're not at a show for tricks, right?
A good way to look at it is that in the mortgage world, you have the loan setup people that come before maybe, the processors. And then at the end, you have the post closers. So some of those folks may need to sit in my class for several sessions. So every morning, if I'm there on site for the week, they will see something to break the ice at the beginning, some quick trick. I have an ROI trick for you when you're ready.
Oh, we could have this whole thing be tricks. I love it. I'm so interested in because the performance, and I have some questions around how you prepare. Like this one, you said I have an ROI one.
Yes.
Let's see it. And then let's talk about how you decided what that was an ROI one. The first one that you showed us with the ropes was about differentiating product and what it means in the market, right? So interested. Okay.
All right. So we talk about return on investment. So if I have some of the leadership who has decided to bring me in to train their team, and this is a project where once they're trained, they're going to deploy this product and they're going to probably want to measure the learning that's happening at the very end. So do we get a return on our investment? So for you in the audience, all of you here in the front row, your leaders are in the back row. The front row here are all our end users. This is your product and you're the ones who are customer facing. And so the investment, and this is just a $5 bill representing initial investment, and their goal, the leadership's goal, is for us to do all that we're asked for. And they're going to keep an eye that their investment is going to pay off dividends. So you're going to study today with me. You're going to do test cases, right? We're going to answer all your questions. We'll stay here till 11 p.m. if you don't mind, if you have any questions. I don't think they're going to want to stay that long. But in the end, you're going to give feedback once you've deployed the product and you're practicing and you've got hiccups and you want the questions answered. And so then tell us how well you did. Did you improve? Was this investment worth it? And if it was, it pays dividends. And that is when leadership is happy.
Wait a second. Did we just go from one $5 bill to how many?
Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Wait, where did those come from?
All the investment in time, practicing, energy, feedback. There you go.
I was staring at them. Where did they come from? They came out of nowhere. All of a sudden it filled up. Oh my God.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so easy to trick, huh? Or wait, no, you're really good at us.
No, your response is what we're going for, really, is it's enthusiasm. It's joy and it's positive energy. If we're starting the training now, you're ready to go, hopefully,
It's incredible what I just saw. I'm telling you, I was staring at it because I'm like, he's going to do something. I'm watching it. And there it was magically. I saw you have just one bill in there. And then all of a sudden you fanned them out.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And that's what it is. So, it's a joy. I would say anybody listening here and they have nephews, nieces, kids, if they're not already interested in magic, this could be something that they find that they didn't know about and they would love it, as much as me and my peers.
Gosh, well, it's just really cool. Like, did you learn the trick and then decide the trick was connected to ROI in this case?
Yeah. So this starts out. So you're aware that whenever there's a convention of vendors, it's in a big hall or convention center, and there are booths, and all the booths are competing for attention, whether they're selling services or a physical product. Who do they hire to drum up a crowd in front of their booth? An entertainer,
the entertainer,
juggler, yeah. A ventriloquist, a magician, and other artists. The balloon friend of mine who did her act with bubbles. I said balloons, it was bubbles. Yeah. And so I was doing trade shows and when I was in the Yellow Pages. And so then I learned, okay, what things apply to what they're selling? Well, what's their product? Or sometimes they would come to me and they go, hey, we were watching a magic show and he made somebody's dollar bill appear inside of a lemon. Can you do that? And, even if I couldn't do it, I'd say, yeah, of course I can do it. And then I would go find out how to do it and then practice it and then go to my peers and go, okay, I got a big show coming up. How did I do? Oh, you did pretty good, but you can make it better with this, this, and this collaboration. And then all of a sudden now I can do it,
Wow.
So you go out and find it. Other times we can naturally say this particular thing we're doing with the newspaper applies to recycling, right? So I show a newspaper, I tell them to remember an article in the newspaper, and then I tear it up. And you've seen this on other magicians just on TV. And then we magically restore it, just like you saw the bills magically appear or the ropes magically change sizes. And the newspaper, they could look and it's the same ads and same things they saw, and the newspaper is back to normal. So these can apply. I use that to apply to a recycle concept. Recycling is important, boom. What are we doing? We're writing our content, right? Or applying the content to the engagement tool or the analogy tool.
So interesting. As I'm listening to you describe it, I'm having a sense that like corporate life or organizations or businesses are a little bit more interested in hearing the magician's story than they are, in my case, the actor's story. Let's see what you got. Let's see how we can make it, whereas for me, it was like, don't do any of that actory stuff. It's interesting to me because there's like one side of the coin, like they're opposite, but they're the same. And I find it very interesting how it seems like it would be it's easier to talk about magic than it is acting in a corporate setting in some way. And maybe it's because you've figured out how to phrase it and make it more accessible or something. But I guess you could say I'm feeling a little jealous.
That's a compliment either way you look at it, right? Because I love what you do and how you do it, and we've met in person and I've seen you, I've sat in your session and got a lot of great takeaways from it. So it's the same kind of thing, how did you get to where you were is going to be the question when people meet you. Same thing.
When you attended my session in person, did I do my secret bit?
Yes.
So my secret bit came from watching a comedian, Joel Hodgkins, actually. He was speaking at the Eastman Kodak Theater. He came and talked about how he did Mystery Science 3000, how he conceptualized that, and the early days of that TV show, if anyone knows what that is.
I remember it, yeah.
MSTK 3000, right? And so it was, my husband's a big fan and we went to go see him. But in the beginning, he had a treasure chest hidden under one of our seats. And he talked about it being in one of our seats. So of course, everyone's like, is it mine? Is it mine? And nobody had found it because I don't remember. But the funny thing is I don't remember the details of his bit, but it impacted me so much that it became something that I took and went and created my secret that I currently do in a corporate setting with my talks. But he had the treasure box had all of his secrets in it, and it was the answer to how he created that show and who he is as a person. He really built it up the whole time, and then in the end he revealed it. And it's funny, like I said, I don't actually remember what was in it because I was so focused on, I love that, how do I make it happen? And I've been doing that bit for years and years, and it's changed and grown over time, but it has become such an important and fun part that I love it. And I always look at ways to make it even more relevant. It always changes. And here's a funny little thing that I've noticed in the last couple of years with my little secret bit that I do. People that have been the secret holders have become my clients.
Wow. Yeah, there's a personal connection.
They reach out to me, and then I've been hired by them over the last couple of years, and I'm kind of keeping track of that, going, that's so interesting to me. And also, as I was listening to you describe what you're doing and thinking about how you had the 3 ropes, talking about the product, the bills, and ROI, I'm sitting here thinking, how could I hire Mike to help me learn a trick that I would be able to bring to the stage as part of my content? Is that something that you've ever done with people? Have you ever worked with them to teach them to do something that they could bring to their training or their speaking or whatever it may be?
Well,
Have you done that?
yes. So one of the calls I got was from a person at a corporation. So I thought I was coming in to talk about maybe their Christmas party. And he says, no, I want to take personal lessons from you so I can perform some quick sleight of hand in a meeting. So I met, he had a lot of opportunities for leadership among his peers, and he wanted, so literally, I think we went maybe 4 to 6 weeks, and I went once a week to train him. And again, I'm evaluating his current skill set with his hands and saying, okay, I know we're about to start with the type of skill level he's going to need, because a lot of folks don't realize you have to practice for hours and hours to do some of the most amazing things that we've been talking about or that you've seen or I've seen. And if someone says, I just bought a trick, I practiced it for an hour and I showed it to someone, then maybe that trick is conducive to a beginner, but then again, maybe it's not that amazing. The effect maybe is amazing for a certain age level, like children, as an example. So the really amazing things that a corporate person like him would want to learn, they need to put the time into it. At the same time I say that, and I'll contradict myself, when you say you want to learn something, we discover what is your goal and how can we accommodate that with something that doesn't require all those hours. But just like you practice your speaking, it's going to just be that type of time investment, right? Which is pretty good.
You got to test it with your audience, and you got to see, like, how do I set it up? Does it flow with who I am? One of the things that I learned in many of the trainings that I've taken and all the study that I've done in the last 2 years, I went to Heroic Public Speaking and got to study under Michael and Amy Port. And Michael Port is an amazing performer and speaker. And he often says, or he taught us this, and I love this. It's like, when you have a telling problem, consider showing. And, that's where the idea of a bit comes from. And so as you're sitting there trying to explain something with words, maybe it is that you just need to show it with your body or with your physical presence, or in this case with something with magic, and that those are the kind of things that sometimes when you find yourself over explaining something, maybe you've got a telling problem and you need to show it.
Yeah, show it. Yeah. And so, my next goal in performance is to learn something where I could play a piece of music, and this could be close up, but not necessarily stage, but close up or in a gathering in a room, and not speak at all and just perform, like you're saying, just show. I've really never done that before. And so that is a challenge, but I love when I see it done by others, because then language is no longer a barrier where you are. And your audience could be from anywhere, speak any language, and they're just watching. So I think that would be a great experience, not only to take the time to learn it, but to reflect on the experience of the people as you're looking at their response in that moment, going, wow, this was worth it. And that's my next goal.
So that's an interesting thing. So that's where you're headed, always learning, and showing respect to the art of
Absolutely.
the magic and how much it takes to rehearse and practice and bring all of that up so that you have the opportunity to make people have an experience with you. I love this question. How do you hope people feel after they have a training session with you?
Well, I think I've received that in many ways. I hope they feel like this was a unique training experience and they're walking away with more abilities to make the learning stick, right? Because we know the theory about 10%, you remember 10%, and then as time goes by, you remember less. And I want to make it so that I've figured out a way to make the activities that they're going to do and the recommendations I make for continued practice without me by their side so that when I get feedback 3 months or 6 months from now, I could hear them say, you know what? We got it. Or it took 2 months or it took 3 months, but we got it, because I gave them the encouragement and recipe from the lessons while they were with me so they could carry it with them and it would stick. That to me, and that has happened before, and I've gotten, that wonderful feedback from that.
And that's what I'd call magic, Mike.
Exactly.
That's magical. And why we do it. My goodness. Well, I feel like that is such a perfect place for us to wrap up today. I want to thank you for showing us those 2 tricks, because we could talk about it, but it was really quite something and incredible to be able to see it. And so it makes me very happy that I do, in fact, have it on the camera. And I can't wait for people to see this and experience it. Before we wrap, is there one small thing that you could teach our listeners, me, that we might be able to bring into our next training session or presentation?
Yeah, I think the Magicians Association would not be upset if I go all the way back to a magic book that I took out in elementary school in the library, right? Because then we know it's been around for a while. So I'm going to step out of frame to reach for a rubber band. Okay. Got a bag of colorful rubber bands here. So I'll demonstrate it first, and then you let me know if the red rubber band shows up on my hand, or maybe I should go with the green. Let me see. Is the green going to work? Let me see. We're going to try. Does this green rubber band show on my hand okay?
I can see it, yeah.
All right. So the idea is that we want to see, do like a little bit of an eye test, right? To see how you see where the rubber band is. So it's on 2 fingers, and I'm going to close my hand like this, tap it like that, and it's on 2 fingers. Now, is it on the top 2 fingers or the bottom 2 fingers, Kassy?
It's on the top.
Okay. So watch closely and don't blink. Now it's on the top, but not anymore.
Now it's on the bottom too, and it just popped. Unbelievable.
Now, this was in a kid's magic book, so it's like one of the first things that I learned. And so what you do is you start off with it on 2 of your fingers, and depending on your dominant hand, I'm a lefty, so I use this. So the audience doesn't see this view. They see this view here. So when you're closing your hand, you notice how my hand came over here? I'm going to pull this rubber band across so that the other pinkies can reach it. And I'm going to close my hand over those fingers. And then you just saw me do like this, a little passing motion. Did you get suspicious when you saw me do that?
I didn't even notice, because I'm just busy thinking about, okay, pay attention. And then I'm not paying attention.
Right. So it's important to do this way so that they can tell you if it's top or bottom. But this is what it looks like behind the scenes. It's actually on all 4 fingers, but if you do it correctly in practice, they have no suspicion. So I'm not tying a plot to this, but it's always good to make a story that ties to why you're doing this, right? So right now, this is just a very elementary thing, but you definitely want to write a little story to make it more interesting. So is this on the top or the bottom? And you said it's on the top. So that way they remember. Otherwise, there's no magic if they don't remember that it was already on the top. And what's cool is that all you have to do now is open and close your hand. When you open your hand, you see what's happening? So if you do it quickly,
it just pops down there.
It pops down. And that's really the effect. Anyone can, look this up or practice it. But this is what I decided to do as I got older. I wanted to be able to do it with one hand. So you'll see here that this is here, right? And I'm going to close my hand. And it's at the bottom, and I'm going to make it go to the top.
Oh my gosh, it just did it instantly, and you can't even tell.
So we'll leave that for another day.
That was amazing.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. So I'm sitting here going, I think I cannot do that, but I definitely loved watching that.
You can do it.
It's just so cool. It's such an honor to have you here and so
Thank
much
you.
fun. I think I could talk to you all day. And here's another cool thing I want you to know. I'm super interested in learning about mortgages now and all the software.
There we go. Yeah,
See,
absolutely. Yeah,
I want to come and take your class, make it all magical that way.
yeah, let's do it.
I love it. Mike, thank you so much. Where can we get in touch with you? And what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, just go on to LinkedIn and you could either just look at your own LinkedIn and take your name out and put Bondi, Bondi, hit enter, and it should get you there. Otherwise, it's Mike Bondi, corporate trainer on LinkedIn. You'll find me that way.
Well, it has been nothing but a pleasure to have you here today. And in fact, I'm going to go as far as saying it's been completely magical. Thank you.
That's your spark. Now go light something up. And hey, if this episode lit you up, share it with a friend, a fellow facilitator, or someone who needs a little more connection in their day. Be sure to follow the Spark Konnect so you don't miss what's next. We've got more brilliant voices, bold ideas, and heart-forward conversations coming your way. Until then, stay curious, stay brave, and keep showing up.